What's going on, Packers fans? Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. Appreciate you guys joining us today for Mike Wahle. Great conversation with Mike today. I think you're going to really enjoy it, so make sure to stick around for that. I know that's why you're here anyway. But before we get there, a couple quick shout-outs. New members, It's the Groove, Nick Nelson, Michael Cowell, Celia Valenzuela. Appreciate you guys signing up for Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube memberships. If you haven't checked those out yet, great time to do so. Members only episodes with Aaron Nagler every single week, plus members Q&As. It's definitely worth it. Some really cheap options out there. So check those out over on YouTube. We didn't have much for Packers news on Monday. Matt LaFleur did have a press conference. The first thing that was very apparent is that despite the win, he was not happy with the overall performance, said that there's a lot to clean up. I thought it was interesting that he said that sometimes after a win, it's a much easier and better time to be hypercritical of players and really call out mistakes. It's like when a team puts a lot into a game and you lose, and then the next day you get hypercritical, I'm reading between the lines here a little bit and paraphrasing a little bit, but that's maybe not as good of a scenario as when you make those mistakes and then you win, everyone's still feeling good. There's not a bunch of, angst or frustration or things like that in the locker room. And now you can really call out those things that went wrong. So I thought that was a little bit of an interesting discussion from Matt. And again, very clear that he knows that there is a lot to still clean up on this team, which again, I know he knows it's nothing groundbreaking there, but it is what you want to hear. You don't necessarily want to hear, I felt we played a really strong game and credit to Arizona and things like that. You want to hear that for the same thing from Xavier McKinney, right? That Xavier knew like, hey, we've got to play a lot better football than that. Matt's kind of you can tell the DNA of this team. This might be the youngest team in football. That's not the mentality that they have. Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, Micah Parsons. I mean, hear those guys talk, and right away that even though they won the game, that's not what they wanted in this one. They needed a much better performance overall. And that's what you want from your leaders on the team, is to continue to strive for better, including Matt LaFleur in the same boat there. The other newsworthy item is at the very end of the press conference, Bill Huber asked him about LVN, kind of said, we'll see, but said he was not optimistic about LVN playing this week against Pittsburgh. So likely another week without Lucas Van Ness going into Pittsburgh this upcoming Sunday for Sunday Night Football. Now, before we get to that conversation with Mike, shout out to two of our sponsors today. First of all, Alchemy Wealth Management. Make sure you're checking out retirewithryan.net. I know sometimes financial things can get either put off to the side or maybe it's just too complicated and difficult. That's exactly why you go to Ryan Nelson with Alchemy Wealth Management. Again, go to retirewithryan.net, set up that free consultation, let him do the heavy lifting for you, and you're going to feel much better about your financial future. So once again, retirewithryan.net. Also, Luigi's Frozen Pizzas, right? We got our victory Monday. We got our victory pizzas this week. Hopefully we can get another batch against the Steelers this week and set up those victory pizzas. If you haven't gotten yours yet, you need to do so. If you're in a area where there's Luigi's Pizzas and you haven't given them a shot yet, what are you doing? What are you doing? You must not trust me for anything, because if there's one thing you can trust me on, it's that Luigi's Pizzas are freaking incredible. So go check those out. Luigi'sPizza.com, the brand new website, by the way, Luigi'sPizza.com, and over on social media at Luigi's Pizza. Now, without any further ado, let's get to this fantastic conversation with the one and only Mike Wahle. What's going on, everybody? We are being joined now by the one and only Mike Wahle. You can find him on social media at Mike Wahle68. If you missed our live show yesterday over on the Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube channel, make sure to check that out when you have a chance. But we're going to be diving into this Packers-Cardinals game in totality. Mike, before we get there, how was your NFL weekend?
Oh, man, Andy, let's see, Andy, I drove down to the border on Saturday, which is it's supposed to be 6 hours, was 7 because we moved 1 hour and 1 mile and 1 hour in San Antonio. Then I drove 4, so we played one game. This is my first time my son's played in like months because he's been injured, right? Play one game, drive back up to San Antonio about 4.5 hours. I get there and I'm an idiot. And so I booked these rooms that don't have, won't let pets in the hotel. And I got my son, his buddy, my wife, and a little Big Pun, my puppy.
Sure.
So I dropped the family off over at the hotel, and I just roll down the street to the Red Roof Inn with Big Pun, and I go, hey man, you got a room, blah blah blah. He gives me a room, right? So, and I wake up the next morning, and I haven't been in Red Roof Inn in a while, but and I don't want to disparage him. There were a lot of dead cockroaches when I woke up because we came in real late. But what the bed bugs did to my ankle, I don't want to put on this show. I don't want to put on this show because people will lose their lunch. But let's just say I probably won't be staying there again for a while.
That is brutal. Yeah, no, not ideal in any way, shape, or form. Hopefully your NFL Sunday went better than that. Did they win the soccer game at least?
Yeah, they won both games. Yeah, they won both games. It's good.
There you go.
I haven't been to games in a while, so it's been fun.
My son, we did not have any hotel experience, but he had 2 games in Minneapolis that we drove to and from. It's just the disparage or like the discrepancy in teams. Sometimes we're in the same league. We won one game 6-0. We lose one game 5-0. Just like sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and it's all the teams in the same league. Just crazy disparity between the haves and the have-nots a little bit in that league. And we're right smack dab in the middle of them. But good game overall. He had 2 goals and an assist in the good game at least. And actually, I thought he played really well in the other one. But we're not here to talk soccer. We're here to talk football. Let me start with this, Mike. I know that we talked about a little bit on the live show of like these wins are all very difficult. It's going to be hard. This is literally the Arizona Cardinals MO so far. Like San Francisco 49ers, they lost by a point a week ago to the Indianapolis Colts, who are on the top of the league and playing amazing. Was almost the exact same scenario. They're down, I think by, what was it? Down by 3. They score a touchdown to go up by 4, almost the exact scenario. And then, Arizona couldn't get the job done at the end. Green Bay, same thing, that, win by 4 at the end. This is how they've played everyone. But I'll just lead off by saying, why was this one so difficult for Green Bay?
Well, they're a better team than the record shows. They have a backup quarterback it's always kind of difficult to prepare for a quarterback when you don't know that Kyler Murray is going to play or not until kind of, maybe Saturday, Sunday. So how do you prepare for Jacoby Brissett? I thought they did a fantastic job of executing a game plan with him. He's obviously with the veteran quarterback. We talked about it on yesterday. When you can't run, sometimes you have a lot of answers for the pressure looks early on. They saw that with Joe Flacco. They see it again with Brissett. Although we had 6 sacks and we had a ton of pressures, I thought that he executes in the face of pressure extremely well. That's a different look maybe than you're going to get from a Kyler Murray. So I think defensively, that has something to do with it. And then offensively, look, we've got weapons all over the board. It's super exciting, some of the situations that Matt LaFleur puts our playmakers in to be successful, including Josh Jacobs, by the way. But we're still trying to figure out what we're good at up front. And there's too many plays that are either negative or 0, 1, 2 yard gains in the run game that kind of put you off schedule and change up what you want to do from series to series. And we just have to continue. And again, I don't know that the Arizona Cardinals have a lot of all pros across the board on offense and defense in the trenches. You love Calais Campbell, right? You know that Josh Sweat's a good football player, but there's a lot of first rounders on that team, to be fair. But you're not looking at this team like this is a team that we should not be able to do certain things against at a high clip. And I think we talk about it every week, the reps in footwork and pad level and second step and hand placement and just kind of the details of the game are still eluding some players on our team. And it shows up enough in the game to become a factor and maybe takes away from the fluidity of what our offense could be.
Sure. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, we talked about this in a very similar way last week with Packers Bengals and hey, it's tough to win. You got a 9-point win, etc. Did this one feel any different than Packers Bengals to you? Was this, were there more frustrating moments because Arizona was leading, or was this still just, it's part of the game. They found a way to win at the end, and that's what's most important.
It's just important to win football games. And it's so funny when you're in the locker room during the season, you're figuring things out. When you're in meeting rooms, whether you're talking to the head coach, your offensive line coach, your coordinator, the coaching staff in general, the defense, you're trying to figure things out. It's like we're not a finished product. And so you just value these wins. You can be on the other, but believe me, you can be on the other side of this and play your ass off and lose a game. Imagine if you're in the Giants locker room right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
God. Oh my God.
Yeah. So you can play your ass off and lose. So these wins are so important. And the thing is, every individual on the team is fighting his own battle every week. And cumulatively, what that ends up looking like is what the team looks like. But you have these individuals that are sitting in their own lockers, kind of assessing the way they play after each game. And sometimes it's great, sometimes it's improving, sometimes it's getting worse. And the struggle is with this is to continue to have this mix of players and plays to continue to kind of, I guess, raise the floor of your football team week in and week out. Not necessarily raise the ceiling, but raise the floor of your football team, and making sure as a coaching staff, as a locker room, those guys that are just struggling, like how do we help them elevate their play so we can just get a little bit better?
You mentioned earlier the negative, 1 to 2 yard plays, the 0 yard plays, the 1 to 2 yard plays. There's too many of them, and it's kind of just setting the offense back a little bit. I know you mentioned you love what Matt LaFleur is doing as a play caller. I'm assuming the answer to the question is that play calling or execution is going to be maybe a little bit of both, but maybe more on execution. At what point, if that is the case, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if that is the case, if it is execution, at what point when you're not able to execute those plays, does continuing to call those plays come on the play caller's hands and maybe you just got to do something different?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we talked about it in the show prior. It's like, if I could make one blanket rule for this team, would be not to run, back offset gun across the field, running horizontal and letting our guards get blown up in the, behind the line of scrimmage. Like, it's just it's not that they're getting beat. It's the way that they were I think, just based on my 30 years of watching, football and playing guard, what they're being asked to do just doesn't make sense. Like, it's too easy to defeat, unless you're just a really, really, really good technician.
Sure.
And so I think that part for me is where you look at this and you go, when Adam Stenavich was coaching the line, they could have executed this. Maybe it's because they had better players. Maybe it's because he was more of kind of a technical guy. But right now, with the combination of what's in the offensive line room, those plays aren't working. And then for Matt, it's like, when you're building this game plan, it's not like Matt LaFleur is literally just sitting down and drawing up all the plays that we're going to run. Like the run, the offensive line, the tight ends coach, running back coach, like maybe they have the run game. Maybe the wide receivers coach, quarterbacks, they have the passing game. And then we try to put it all together in the formations that we think are going to give us leverage on the defense, right? So it's not like he's just sitting there and drawing every play up. And so when you go in and you trust your staff, you're putting these plays in. Obviously, they think they're going to work. Now, the question I would have is, at what level in the play the play scheme on Tuesday night are we getting to that same one and going like, okay, maybe we should take that one out this week? I just don't know where that is, because as big as his play sheet is, we don't really know. Like, it's 2nd and 8. And we have, how many runs do we really have that we like, or like that our personnel fits, or it is not an obvious we're running this play? Like, how many offset plays do we have that marry up with a play action? We can throw the backside slant. Like, how many of those things do we really have in the offense? Like, we just don't know the answer to that question.
I want to talk about that 3rd and 4 sweep turnaround to Emmanuel Wilson on that play. I've got to imagine a few things were true in this scenario. Number one, they were going to go for it on 4th down, would have been my thought process. Like, it's just like, hey, let's try to see if we can catch him off guard, run the football. And even if we don't get it, we're going to go on 4th down anyway. The second thing is, I would assume they saw something on tape that said they're crashing down, or we're going to be able to, kind of catch them off guard. But regardless of either of those two things, how much are tendency breakers important in the NFL? If every single time on 3rd and 4, you're throwing the football, does that matter? Do you need to every once in a while say like, hey, we got to show that we can hand it off just so teams stay slightly honest to that? Or does that really not matter all that much?
It does matter, but the way that I would think about it is you take that very specific play. Now, I think it was Tucker Kraft was split out like 2 to 3 yards wider than like just hipped off, right? And because he's got to block down on Josh Sweat, and this is the play you're talking about, Rasheed Walker pulls right into him, and then Jenkins pulls but can't get to, it's a cluster, right? So generally you would if you look at that play again, you'd be like, okay, well, the splits are super wide, so everybody's thinking about going upfield. So now I'm talking like defensive tackles and defensive ends. The linebackers are 5 yards off. There's only one linebacker in the game. I think the other one, 27, was maybe on the other side. I can't remember that specific play, but
sure.
The bottom line is like you have tons of space. This is where you want to run like your inside middle zone, the quick trap, like the power game to the play side. This is where they're giving you the opportunity to. The hole's already built. Like the hole's already there because of the splits of the defensive tackles. So take advantage of it. And so to put the ball outside, it's like one thing that eludes me because I'm just not that smart is like for years it was pounded into my head. You don't run the ball horizontal on the goal line and on, like third and short, third and medium because you don't want to lose yardage. Right? Like it was pounded into my head. And teams do it all the time now. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it always was like when you're in those situations, you want to run the ball downhill because in third and medium or on the goal line, what are the defensive line doing? They're always coming upfield. So those are the opportunities to like space them out, trap them, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't, I don't know. It's tough, Andy.
It very much is. That's one I could probably do without moving forward, though. As you mentioned as well, some of those outside runs, definitely the ones that are a bit of a struggle right now. What did you think of Jordan Love in this game?
He just is he makes some really heady, I think, at the line of scrimmage plays, moving some guys around. Obviously, they're running some motions to get, motion to get some different looks. He made a couple throws that are just, that first throw out to the quick out to Golden, that should have been a pick, but it wasn't because it was such an amazing throw. I mean, he just pulls some things out of his bag where you're like, man, what a talented player. Obviously, you see the play to Dobbs on the fourth down early. That you want to have him hit. Jordan's just a really, really good quarterback that, like everything else in this offense, it just, even if he has like numbers wise, like, he's 19 for 29, he's got like a $180 or something like that, a touchdown, right? No picks. So all of that's positive. It just doesn't, like, you're watching the game, it feels like he got outplayed by Jacoby Brissett, quite frankly.
Yep.
And, I'm not really sure if that's true or not. I don't know how to measure that. We won the football game, but you know what I mean? But it feels like there was just there's still a lot of meat on the bone. And again, I go back to like, we played so well in that first Detroit game that I think it's everything that we are looking at now. We're going like, I'll watch a game with the Packers and I'll stop I want to review every single damn play on film and be like, well, we should have scored a touchdown here. Or we should have completed this. It's like, that's not how football works. He's not a robot. Like it's really hard to do what he does. And so, but you have these really high expectations for Jordan Love. And it's not that he's not meeting him. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, except that I thought he played fine, but
there was more out there.
There's more out there. And you feel that way about the offense. Like for the last month, you feel that way every week.
Yeah, it felt like there was never a rhythm or a consistency or a timing. And it felt disjointed. It felt like all the pieces weren't exactly fitting together in the right way. In moments, in drives, especially in the second half in this one, second half against Dallas, it feels like at any moment they can get hot and things can start clicking and they start putting some drives together. But through the 4 quarters of a game, and not that it's just easy to put points on the board every single time, but when you've got 6 points at halftime, 3 of which are because you get a 20-yard completion and a 61-yard field goal, just feels like, this team's way too talented to have 3 points at halftime against any team in the NFL.
Yeah, and you can see that a lot of teams are starting to just play like really deep zones on the back end and reading his eyes. Like they almost had the pick on the crosser early on.
Yeah,
and
that was the big one, or the one.
Yeah, and so you just he's got such arm talent, and we've said this for years that when you feel like you can make every throw, and I played with a quarterback who felt like he could make every single damn throw.
Yep.
But when you feel like you can make every throw, like it's a blessing, and sometimes it can be a curse. And because a lot of times you can see that the play design in the offense that they're running is to go to a specific person, like let's say Quick, and he's like, no, I want to play this whole thing out, and now pressure gets in your face. You have to throw the ball away. That happened probably 4 or 5 times this game where it's like you had quick answers. You're choosing not to go quick because you want to see how this plays out over here because you have a premonition. And then eventually they collapse the pocket a little bit. You got to throw it on the ground or you got to roll out or, whatever. So those things are all part of it. And if he hits every check down and he goes, 30 for 30 for another 50 yards, like, are we saying that's fantastic? Or are we saying like, 30 for 30 at 230 yards. Like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? So there's that's why it's an art and science, right? So you like the way he thinks and you want that kind of quarterback. But then if it doesn't hook up for whatever reason, and a lot of that has to do with like the sheer volume of like receivers we run it on off the field and all that kind of stuff, like it's sometimes it becomes more inefficient than it feels like it's more inefficient than it needs to be.
I think this is one that other teams might look at and use a little bit of a blueprint from. Matt LaFleur talked after the game of how Arizona kept an umbrella on the top of everything and kept everything in front of them, and were basically forcing them to, check it down and just take the simple stuff. And it just felt like Jordan never really flipped that switch to say, all right, I'll check it down and I'll take what's there and I'll let Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, and some of these guys do the heavy lifting after the catch. If there's a criticism, or not even a criticism, just a critique I would have in this game of like, at some point you have to be willing to say, all right, we're not going to be able to get that, 15 plus throw on this one. And we're going to have to take the check down. And to your point, it's so much easier said than done, because they do hit on a couple of the more 15, 20 yard plays in this one that are really important. And they've got the opportunity to hit Dobbs for the touchdown. It's just a miss. So it's not perfect. It's not exact. I thought just in this one, though, there was more opportunity there to maybe just take some of those easy throws.
And when you get this team in 12 personnel and they're going to line up in their 3-4, that you're going to have a ton of time after the play action pass, and they did. And why do you even put yourself in that situation? So you can throw the ball deep.
Yes.
No one's running 7-step play action pass under center, so you can throw a check down.
You check down, exactly.
Yeah.
No,
and quite frankly, they had a lot of, if you just looked strictly at like what we're good at on the offensive line, we're pretty good at pass pro. And what does Jordan Love do really well? He drives the ball downfield pretty well. So, and this team doesn't rush the passer. Like they don't have any one guy you're game planning for. So like everything's there for you to say, oh, this is what we should do. And there are countless times in this game where he under center, drop back, show the ball, pulls it out, looks up, and has time to throw. It's just like we said, deep safeties, trying to cut off some of this stuff. They got safeties driving on their crossing routes. Sometimes it's open, sometimes it's not. But yeah, eventually, and maybe you'd like to see him get there faster, as like, a lot of times with the progressions, you're going like, you'd like to imagine that, the quarterback's going right to left or left to right. It's like bang, 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 bang. Sometimes the quarterback has to go bang, bang, back to here, or bang, 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 back to here. And those take a long time to actually play out. And so maybe you'd like to see him bypass one of those players and get to the check down a little bit faster on a couple of these plays. Yeah, but it's like you never know what they're being taught in the meeting room too. Like I've sat in, and I used to sit in these meetings in Miami, and the quarterback coach would be like, we'd be watching practice and be like, I like the decision, I like the decision, and I don't want to like put names on people, but you'd be like, are you serious? You just threw like 4 incompletions, 2 picks. Like, what are we talking? I like the decision here. And you're like, you just never know what they're being taught, is my point. Is it just a,
yes,
never know.
I very much know exactly what you mean. Oh, it is time to get our prize picks in for Sunday Night Football. Packers and Steelers in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers versus the Green Bay Packers. This one's going to be a ton of fun. I am going with 2 pretty simple ones here. Aaron Rodgers, more than 215.5 passing yards. Aaron, Mr. Chip on his shoulder. He's going to want to have a big game in this one. We've seen Green Bay give up some yards to Jacoby Brissett and Joe Flacco. You can bet that Aaron Rodgers is going to want to get his in this one. More than 215.5 passing yards for him. And Josh Jacobs, simple as can be, a touchdown. He is a machine in the red zone. They give him multiple opportunities. Pittsburgh gives up a lot of yards, a lot of points. I expect Josh Jacobs to get a touchdown in this one. So Aaron Rodgers, more than 215.5 passing yards. Josh Jacobs, a touchdown in this game. Of course, you can go over to Sleeper and get a 100% match by utilizing code PACKADAY up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. Check out Sleeper for that. Also, right now on Sleeper, you can have a $20 play without any deposit necessary. Terms and conditions apply for that as well. But that is an awesome opportunity. Go check out Sleeper if you haven't already. They're available in over 25 states nationwide. So what are you waiting for? Get your picks in for Sunday Night Football. Green Bay, Pittsburgh. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm excited about my picks this week. Let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Micah Parsons was insane in this one. 10 pressures, 3 sacks. I did. Your words came up in my mind through a couple of points in this game where they were either having him off the ball or inside at defensive tackle, and it did feel like, yeah, you're kind of maybe doing him a little bit of a favor because he was just a menace at defensive end and just winning every single time. But regardless, unbelievable performance from Micah Parsons in this one.
Special player, just what a talent. He kind of had his like all pro moment, this week, and certainly like with the amount of attention he gets from the opposition, clearly, but the amount of attention he got from the media, the announcers, that's a burden on his shoulders that he wears pretty damn well.
He does.
And the one thing about Micah that is so impressive, because I know he came out and he pops off about the referees and this and all that kind of stuff. He has a podcast. It's like when the ball is snapped, I don't know if anybody plays harder in the National Football League. Like, the dude is absolutely like scary, relentless. And think about the amount of players that we talk about with like Lucas Van Ness. Like, Lucas Van Ness makes all of his plays because he plays hard. Like, he's an effort guy, right? Micah Parsons is maybe more effort, and he's got freakish. I'm a better human than you talent. And like, it's amazing to watch. And it's not the sacks that he gets, but it's the amount of times that he wins is just nutso. Let me say that in a different way. The amount of times that the Cardinals allowed Jonah Williams and their rookie to block him one-on-one is nutso. Like, at some point, and they figure it out, right, eventually, but it's like, dude, you're going to get him murdered.
Yeah.
You can't, those guys just aren't good enough to block him. The other guy we got to talk about, though, is Quay Walker. We talked about it last week. It's like, I hope they unleash that Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper deal where let's not put Micah Parsons inside. We've got a guy who does that really well already. That's what he did well at Georgia. That's what he does well in the league. And he absolutely browbeat their running backs on the way to the quarterback over and over again. He just had one hell of a game. I don't know what his numbers ended up being, but insane game from Quay.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I loved how physical he was on those blitzes too. It was not just like, oh, there's a running back there, let me get up to him. He was going through the running back and doing everything he could to get that pressure. It was some of my favorite plays that I've seen from Quay Walker, quite frankly. And just going back to Coop for just a second, there's so many stars in this league that maybe don't have that same mentality or that can get away with maybe taking off a play here or there. I'll even go when Za'Darius first came to Green Bay and made such an incredible impact and would be like these huge plays, but you would see on some rundowns or you'd see a pass play where maybe it wasn't the same effort time after time. To get a player like Micah that is just wired that way, that is never accepting of anything, that constantly is doing everything he can to make the best play possible. And he's the star too. Like, that's a special trait. I was thinking of the exact same thing during the game of like, to have that guy be that engaged, that involved, that passionate, that, just leading by example. That's a special thing to have.
I wonder how much of it is that he played middle linebacker at Penn State.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because he's such a sideline to sideline guy still that, I mean, how many plays does he, like the play that he got the horse or the, whatever that swing tackle is called, a hip drop tackle.
Yeah.
On, I mean, that play though is like vintage. That's a highlight play, even though he got the penalty. But like he runs around two guys. He like makes a hard left. He looks like he's at like the Sebring Circus or the Sebring Circuit in Monterey, and then all of a sudden tracks the guy down. I mean, it's such an effort play with incredible athleticism, and he has he has those all over the board. There's not that, you're right. It's funny. Like, there's just not that many guys that you can point to and go, or consistently over their careers where that you go to, eventually everybody decides to take a play off. Right. Yeah. And he just doesn't see, he'll just rather not be in the game, which I think is phenomenal, and the fact that they've kind of figured out already how to use that, because it's not like he's playing every snap and they've got a decent rotation and all that. But like, when he's in there, he's going 100%. And that is something that a lot of teams, just from a management standpoint, don't do a good job of. There was when JJ Watt was playing, this statistic came out and they were talking about like pass rush win percentage rates as you stayed in the game. So like JJ Watt was good as on the 9th rep in a row as he was on the first. That's why JJ Watt was so much better than everybody else. I mean, he was better than everybody else, but everybody else fatigued out after 3 to 4 reps, and he could go for 9. Micah Parsons, he might fatigue out for 3 to 4 reps, but he just takes himself out. It's like, no, I'll just trust me. I'll come out for a play or two, but then you're going to get like 100% of me again. And a lot of guys just can't do that. And the coaching staff, everybody needs to be congratulated because they really figured out how to use him well.
Yeah, he played over 50 snaps in this game. And to your point, was out on that final drive for, I think, a snap or two, comes back in the game on that final drive, immediately gets the sack on that very next play after taking, I forget if it was 1 or 2 plays off, but whatever it was, took those off, immediately got the sack and the huge play on that one on the next play. On pace for 105 pressures on the season right now. His record overall for a season, this is per PFF, of course, but his record was 106, which he had in 2022 and 2023. Again, on pace for 105 right now. Just to put that in comparison, the leader of the Packers last year was Rashawn Gary with 49. So he's set to double where the leading pressure getter was for the Packers a season ago. He's pretty good at football.
Yeah, easy to believe both those numbers. Just kind of based on the difference in production. Like he's moving at a different pace than everybody else. I mean, that's the easiest way to say this is that Rashawn Gary's a really good football player. Micah Parsons is like a different species of human. You know, he's a different, you know, he's not the same as everybody else. He just does everything a little bit different.
He is definitely a joy to watch. A couple other ones before we get you out of here. We talked a little bit about this on the live show as well, but what does this pass defense need to do to kind of shore things up a little bit and just kind of make sure that some of these quarterbacks aren't getting in quite the rhythm that they've been able to get into these past few games?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, you have to do a better job communicating when teams go in motion, particularly away from the football. When we are pressuring, you know, if you have a quarterback that knows the answer before the snap, you know, you really have to be on your game. There was a couple times in this game we talked about on the live show where, you know, Jacoby Brissett clearly knows where he needs to go with the football, and the flip side of that is when you have a quarterback that's not mobile but has answers, then you need to get a little bit, you know, tighter in with your defensive coverage, particularly if you're playing like any kind of zone behind your pressure looks, because you're watching the quarterback, you're in a zone, and you should be able to drive on those quick plays. So I think that playing one-on-one versus good players in the National Football League is always going to be difficult. And anytime you get put in a situation when you're in one-on-one, we talked about the Nate Hobbs look with the, you know, really no safety over the top help that he got beat on the fade. Like, I think that for me, when you're playing a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase or Marvin Harrison Jr., even though he's not at the level of those other two guys, and you put yourself in a situation where you have a Keyshawn Nixon or a Nate Hobbs or a Jair Alexander back in the day, anybody on a one-on-one situation, like, you're going to lose some of those reps.
Yep.
So it's all about, are you getting, is the risk versus, is the risk worth, or is the reward worth the risk? Are you getting the turnovers that you want? Are you getting off the field the percentage at the clip that you want? And is it those occasional times that you're getting beat? Is it worth it? Right now, you're kind of teetering because you're not getting the turnovers that you want. We did have 6 sacks. We did have a ton of pressures. Jacoby Brissett did play well, though. Joe Flacco did play well in the second half of that game. Dak Prescott absolutely torched us. And the one thing that you can say about all 3 of those games is they all have an elite receiver and or tight end. And so that specific coverage needs to be addressed, whether it's we got to bracket those guys, we can't trust people one-on-one, or we got to just play tighter up on our zones, because we do, and we have historically, and Xavier McKinney loves to play super deep and run up and try to make plays. And those plays, for whatever reason, they've not been there to be made. Yeah,
they have not. I think that needs to get cleaned up a little bit as well. Have you ever seen a backup kicker go 10 for 10, including a 61-yard franchise record field goal in a 2-week period of time?
I've never seen a backup kicker do that and then stay the backup kicker.
Yeah, that's true too. It's going to be interesting. The Giants have a major kicking issue. I don't know if Green Bay can get a draft pick or something, or a player for one of their 2 kickers to help them out in New York. But man, it's a luxury to have, I guess. But you can't keep 2 kickers on your 53-man roster, which is what you have right now. I'm assuming once McManus is healthy, he's going to be the guy. But it's a heck of a nice thing to have a backup kicker for the moment. That if you need to have him kick, he's certainly been awesome so far.
I wonder. You just hope that he's increased his bank account with the job he's doing, man. Because it's
you'd think
phenomenal.
he would.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
He's going to get a job. Well, whether Green Bay can find a trade or if they release him and he gets claimed off of waivers, or at minimum he'll go on somebody's practice squad, hopefully the Packers. And as soon as there's an injury to anyone in the league, you got to think he's the very first kicker called up. So I don't think, even if Green Bay does end up releasing, I don't think he's going to stay unemployed for very, very long.
Yeah, agreed.
Really quick, Packers Steelers, thoughts on that one before I know you're going to preview it later this week, but quick thoughts on it.
It'll be a fun game. I think the Steelers are playing well. You just love what they do on defense. I've been such like a Cam Hayward fan. He's awesome. He's timeless. He's like Calais Campbell, but a different type of player. But they're just old school, just dogs, and they're just really, really good football players. Fun to watch. Obviously, the Aaron Rodgers narrative is going to be there all week, and I think it'll be an interesting game. The Steelers, love to run 6 offensive linemen on the field. They of course have the big tight end from Georgia who is like 300 pounds. So they're basically rolling like 7 300-pounders on the field at all times, and they do a lot of cool stuff out of it. I watched their last game yesterday actually, and they put themselves in a position where those guys can actually block. It's not like you're bringing in your tight ends and they're 50-50 on these small defensive ends. Like, they're winning all the time. So they have this great setup. And then obviously with DK out there, they've got some threats from the deep end. If you want to go single safety high, they've got some things they can answer with. So I like the Pittsburgh's offense, just kind of an old school, O-line guy. I think it's going to give the Packers some problems because we're a little bit light in the box. It'll be interesting to see how we address that. Evan Williams has been coming down like, Thundercats. So, awesome. He's been fantastic. He's going to have to be huge in this game. And then offensively, look, I think we can have a really fun day against the Steelers as long as we don't try to run horizontal. If you run horizontal on these guys, like, they can, they're built in that 3-4, man. They can post that out as long as you want.
Yeah, they're going to have to be very careful with those sort of plays. Also got to take care of the football with Pittsburgh as well. They're a high risk, high reward team. They allow a lot of points and a lot of yards, but they will get sacks and they will get pressures and they will get some turnovers as well. So got to be careful with that also. Really, really quick. I don't even genuinely like necessarily bringing this up. There is a decent percentage of this fan base that is very much on the fire Matt LaFleur train right now.
For what?
Yes, I'll just let you have the floor in any way that you want with that. But there is as Mike McDaniel still has a job this morning, there's a real solid percentage of this fan base that is completely out on Matt LaFleur. So you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but if you want the floor, you can certainly have it.
Yeah, that's why Twitter's toxic, man. I mean, that's asinine. Matt LaFleur's a good coach. I mean, I can name some coaches that I would love to have on this team as well, but
yep.
Matt LaFleur's a pretty good coach. I mean, here's the hard thing about Matt LaFleur, just being a 48-year-old ex-lineman, right? He cares way too much about his haircut. You know what I mean? Like, he's way too well manicured. His shit always has to match. That part of it, I'm like, you're trying too hard, man. But just he's a great play caller. I don't know what the evolution is, what he's been like in the locker room. I assume that the veterans ran that show when he first got there. That's the assumption I've made. I could be wrong. I don't know that this is, like their offensive and defensive lines right now. Like, you brought in a dude that's Micah Parsons that's different. But if you took everybody else on par, you're like, we're okay. Like, we're not the most violent team in the world, right? You've brought in a couple of guys. Adrian Cooper's a different kind of guy. You've brought in some dudes that are different kinds of guys, right? Evan Williams is a different kind of guy. So I don't know that we have that. I don't want to say grit, but I don't know if he exudes that kind of toughness that like I really like a Mike McCarthy would, you know,
Sure.
or like even Mike Sherman was like that. Like he's just kind of a tough guy. Yeah. So there's that part, but that's like, do you like vanilla ice cream? Do you like strawberry? Do you like chocolate? I mean, he's a great play caller. He's obviously these guys listen to him. What is the job of a head coach? Is like to get your team ready to play. Like, except for special teams, consistently, they're ready to play. They do a pretty good job. And I just, there's like you mentioned Miami. Like now there's a situation where I don't think anybody's buying what the head coach is selling.
No.
And so you can see some. It's always hard, man. Like there's so many good football coaches in high school. Nobody believes that when I say it, but like there's so many good football coaches in high school that for, you know, somebody's grandfather wasn't this guy or didn't get a job folding towels over here or whatever, like they could be an NFL coach too. Like it's a very, very, very difficult job, but there are a lot of candidates that you'll never hear about that are very, very qualified. But I do think that over the course of the last couple of years, I think Matt LaFleur has become an excellent play caller and a pretty damn good head coach.
I'm right there with you. I think the concept is beyond absurd, but wanted to have you have the opportunity to have the floor because maybe I was wrong. Maybe you were all in on the fire Matt LaFleur bandwagon, and I just didn't know about it. Very, very last thing. NBA starts today, Mike. Do you have a horse in the race?
I honestly I don't. I don't. I used to be a Lakers fan, and it's tough to be a Lakers fan these days.
Luka's always fun though. Luka's always fun.
Yeah, no, that's true. You know what? I don't watch. My biggest thing about the NBA is I loved watching Shaq and Chuck on their show. Like that's probably all I watch until the playoffs. And I'll watch if the playoff game's compelling or when the Golden State Warriors are good, the NBA is fun. It's good for the league, right?
Very much so.
I just don't. I just don't follow it anymore, man. It's just I used to be addicted to it when I was younger, and I just don't follow it until the playoffs.
I totally get it. I love it. I don't get to watch as much as I would like, but I love it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm interested to see what the Bucks can do, but should be a fun NBA season. But Mike, I know you got to get out of here. Thank you so much for everything. Mike Wahle 68. Anything else you want to plug on the way out?
No, we'll do a couple of shows. They'll be on yours. Thank you again for putting me on your platform, and we'll talk soon.
You're the absolute best. Follow him again, Mike Wahle 68. You can find me at Andy Herman NFL. That's going to do it for us. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.